Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program, The Hour of Politics. I am so excited about this edition of The Hour of Politics. Mr. Atty Jaesen Jr. is my guest. He is a political mind. He is a legal mind. He does not apologize for his opinions and views and analysis on national issues. He does not hold back. So I'm happy to have him in the house, comfortable and seated and ready to discuss the issues that we have packaged for him to talk about. Also seated and looking so relaxed is Julius T. Jaesen II. And this guy has been writing, he's a journalist, he's a superb young scholar. Somewhere, trying to prepare himself for national leadership and a solid contribution to our country. And so, fellow Liberians, we want to say welcome. I am your humble servant, Ansony Sieh, the guy some people like and some people don't like. And that is the beauty of it all. Gentlemen, welcome. Mr. Jaesen, let's start with you. It's good to have you. How's the beautiful state of Minnesota? How you doing? How family doing?
Oh, no, I'm very happy to be here. We're doing very well. The family is coping gradually. We're settling in, making the transition from London to America, two different environments altogether, right? So, we're trying bit by difficult bit to settle in, but we're doing very well. My wife is fine. She's gone to work. I'm home taking care of our kids. And maybe at 3 o'clock, then I'll leave for work. That's the American life that they will not tell you about.
that is true. It's good that, the transition is going well. Yeah. That will be a little tough from, England to the U.S., It's good that all is going well so far. And we say hi to the madam and also that beautiful kid who is growing up so fast.
Yes. Well, thank God for everything.
Exactly.
But I'm happy to be here, Sieh. I'm happy to be here. And let me say good morning, good afternoon, absolutely to our Liberians following the broadcast and foreign partners that are also taking interest in following your broadcast. I know your broadcast has a huge audience. So, I'm happy to be here and to be speaking with the audience. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Jaesen, it's good to have you. Unmute yourself. How you doing? I know you told me you have just concluded your studies. How are things over there?
Well, things is on course. We're trying. I think God has been faithful to us, that given all the turbulence time, we've been able to sail through. So we're glad. But again, it's a privilege to be on this a very intelligent platform to contribute our quota to bettering our democracy. So it's a golden opportunity once again to sit on your intelligent platform to talk about our country and how we can contribute in deepening our democracy.
Thank you. It's good to have you. And to our audience, our topic for discussion: does the dropping of charges pave Mr. Cummings' path to the Liberian presidency? In this show or this broadcast, what we're going to do is to look at the Supreme Court ruling. That was a case against Unity Party and the ALP, what they were praying for based on the CPP exit clause, they call it. That is Article 8.52, that when you exit the CPP, you can't feed a candidate. The Supreme Court gave a ruling and said that was unconstitutional. And based on that ruling, Seaman Saradan Sifos, the Solicitor General of Liberia, said, well, that was the meat of this whole case against Cummings. And now that this is unconstitutional, he moved very quickly and announced the dropping of charges against Mr. Cummings. So Mr. Walker is clear to contest on Unity Party's ticket. Cummings is clear to contest as a candidate or, a candidate to be. So the two men are free. So, but we have a legal mind here and we want to get his take on these two separate cases, but somehow related. Atty Jaesen, you've been following. I think you read the ruling from the Supreme Court. What was your reaction when you read that? And talk to us, please.
When I read the Supreme Court opinion, I was disturbed because what the Supreme Court opinion did do is to open or to create a potential conflict in the country.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Court of Liberia violated an outstanding long-held principle of law when it decided an issue that was not properly under its jurisdiction. And I'm taking my time to say this because we're talking the constitutional code here. Every time, last time they must have some disagreement again. But it is a settled practice in law in the United States, in Great Britain, all around the world, that it is not the province of the Supreme Court to intrude or to deal with the constitutionality of private contract rights. Private contract rights are not for the scrutiny of the Supreme Court, either of Liberia or the United States. In the United States, there is a landmark case. And when lawyers talk about landmark cases, I mean the case has what? History and what? Legal significance. And all live generations, right? So a landmark case in the United States was Shirley versus Creamer. And that case was decided in 1948. It was African American family, black family that was in St. Louis, Missouri. They moved from there. They moved to Missouri. They were in Mississippi. They lived in Mississippi, and the slavery there, discrimination was hard. So they moved to St. Louis, Missouri, and then they were confronted with this race-based restricted covenant that they will not have horse in a particular district comprising of 39 owners. And so they went behind the scene and negotiated with one of the landlord, and they provided them the house, and so they started living. Mm-hmm. Another neighbor down the road said, but these people are violating the restricted covenant. And as such, the person went to court. And they went to court, and the case, the United States Supreme Court, Shirley went to court. J.D. Shirley went to that court, and he argued that, look, his rights were being, the 14th Amendment rights, the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment of the United States Bill of Rights were violated. And so the Missouri court upheld Creamer's argument, but then the United States Supreme Court reversed it. And even in reversing that decision of the Missouri Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court said it is a long-held tradition that rights should be protected against the intrusion, especially private rights, private contract rights. And it was clear that private contract rights should be protected against the intrusion of the Supreme Court. They held that. So in this recent case, I've given this basis so people will understand. In the recent case, we have, even if our Supreme Court were arguing that they were exercising their Article 2 right to review this matter, the matter did not come before them properly, because what if the Supreme Court is to review, to exercise that constitutional power to review decision, it should emanate from a lower court. This was something that came from next and went straight to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court of Liberia engaged in a strange practice and even on a court its own decision.
Wasn't it because it was bordering on election matter?
But if it's bordering on election matter, they even discuss. The Supreme Court is not discussing election matter. The Supreme Court basically discussing constitutional private contract rights. And it said Article 8.5. Is that talking about election? It says Article 8.5.1 of the CPP agreement was unconstitutional and of no effect, right? Yeah. But the same Supreme Court here, in the Wilmot JP versus Unity Party case, decided March of 2020, the same Supreme Court, Justice Sieh speaking for the Supreme Court, upheld this long tradition that Supreme Court do not scrutinize private contract right. Let me read for you what Justice Yo said, right? And even in her opinion, she criticized Judge Peter Benny for even bringing private contract right to the Supreme Court extension. Said you did not exercise your legal scholarship properly. Just that you're right. Said we hold because let's start from right here. We hold that because the petition for declaratory judgment contains factual issue, this court is unable to exercise original jurisdiction over Sieh. This is a plus. The fact that a challenge to the United Party's constitution is not a constitutional issue as contemplated by law. Wemo Pay had gone to the Supreme Court and said his rights in keeping with Article 20 of the Liberian Constitution were violated. The United Party people did not give him due process and they removed him as chairman. So he went to the court. The court said, no, but these are private rights. If you want me to be United Party, you will go. Don't bring them out of it's not in our purview. The same way it is a standard principle in law that the Supreme Court cannot take oral and physical evidence. It's the same principle that our Supreme Court has violated.
How is the Women Page case similar to the CPP case, especially this essay clause?
Yeah, the similarity is Women Pay, a private citizen, part of a political party, have rules governing that political party. He felt that those rules were violated of his constitutional right because they did not give him due process. Article 20 of the Liberian Constitution, Article 28 of the Liberian Constitution, right? So he went to the court and was trying to say, but my rights were violated. They didn't give me due process. The court said, no, brother, these are private rights. You can't bring it here, all right? And so the court even went further and criticized the scholarship of Peter Benny. Maybe one minute I can read it. In the CPP case, the CPP case, all political parties came together. They carved up a private right for themselves. They said, if anybody leave from here, they will not fee Kennedy, okay, because they sort of work together as per their law, right? They said they will work together 6 months after 2023 election. But if anybody leaves before 6 months after 2023, they will not fee Kennedy in their need in any election. That's their private rights. That's what the private contract rights. That's what they enter into willingly. That private contract right cannot be a subject of constitutional scrutiny in keeping with the principle of law everywhere around the world. It was an error for our Supreme Court to deal with that.
That right, though, it extends to national politics. So that is why I think many other scholars are saying, legal scholars are saying, no, this has a constitutional component to it, because these are individuals who are vying for political offices, and your contract is denying that constitutional right to contest. And that the Supreme Court struck it down. So the question I want to ask is, don't you think that clause in itself was or is unconstitutional, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. Because that clause draws it. I don't think so. That clause draws its wisdom, its logic from the legality principle. In Latin, it says, "Nulla poena suna lege." You can't make an agreement without putting into something like a penalty. If you draft a law, the law has to have some kind of penalty. If the law doesn't have penalty, nobody will respect that law. The law is no law until it has some kind of penalty, right? For people to obey it. So that's Latin. Nulla poena suna lege. The other thing is, it is a string practice, and you can call other lawyer. We can all sit there and pass around it. And I'll give you another case for your consideration citation. Corrigan versus Buckley. It was decided in 1946, the same United States. It was held in that court. And now let me read this. Yeah, it says they say the court held, the United States Supreme Court held that a private covenant that excluded on the basis of race, absent any government involvement, was outside the purview of the federal court to decide. Private agreement, whether it's on the basis of race, whatever basis on, the Supreme Court will not get involved until it gives government currency. That's what it say.
So Attorney Jackson, your argument here is that this is not something for the Supreme Court to have.
Absolutely. And so, yes, so if the Supreme Court were to make a decision about this thing, it should have directed as it did to the Women Pay case and tell United Party people, say, you go to do the property. You go to the circuit court, you exert your right there. The circuit court, if it is unable to pass on the constitutional issue raised here, then we will use our Article 2 right for judicial review. But it can't stand for next year and go to Supreme Court. It is wrong, it's a strange practice, and the court violated its own standing rule.
And Attorney Jaesen, let's look at this other connection here, because this thing has so many connections with the Constitution of Liberia. Article 17, for example, that talk about the right to associate, or, I know some people continue to say and, but they say or, the right to associate or not to associate. All right. And then Article 25 that says that the Constitution guarantees contracts.
Contract.
So, first of all, I want to hear from you. Do you agree this framework document was a contract between the parties?
Absolutely. Absolutely. A contract is any kind of agreement enforceable by law. It's an elementary definition of a contract. Any legal agreement enforceable by law is a contract. It's a binding contract. And all the cases that are cited here, they all talk about what? The sanctity of contract. If we do not respect the sanctity of contract, society will be chaotic. That's why even in the Shirley versus Kramer case, the United States Supreme Court said we cannot intrude into private contract rights. We will not do it. You know, so our own Supreme Court.
Let me get your take on Article 17. The right.
Article 17. What Article 17 says?
Article 25. Regarding
what Article 17 says? Which I've explained Article 17 in two of the articles that I wrote. Right? Article 17 gives two rights, and some people confuse those two rights to something else. The first right is the right to freely associate, and or the right not to associate. So again, the right to freely associate, meaning you can decide to be part of any trade union if you wanted to. That's your right to do it. You also have a right not to associate. Now, other people mistake the right not to associate as to the right to disassociate. The right to disassociate is a different right altogether. So you either associate or you don't associate. But when you decide to associate, then you are obliged to abide by the rules of the association that you become a member of. Say, for example, I gave the issue of marriage, right? As an example. You have your right as a citizen not to get married. Nobody will force you to get married, right? But if you decide to join that covenant with a woman to get married, you are bound by the what? The agreement. What falls under the doctrine of marriage? What control? That controlling law. You are bound by it. So you can't get married one day and the next one you say, I want a woman, let you go. No. Like you would do when you have a girlfriend, right?
No. Hold on, Comrade Jackson. If I like the analogy you brought, right? So I can get married today, and I have the right to decide that, hey, I don't want a marriage anymore. Are you suggesting that because I signed an agreement with this woman to get married to her, tomorrow I can decide not to leave the marriage?
No. But yes, it. So if you stay, like I say, if you have your right to disassociate, to leave in the marriage, that you talk about disassociation now, right? But if you want to leave that woman, like the CPP agreement, if you want to leave the CPP, there are banning penalties. And see, Unity Party want to leave. If you want to leave a woman now, the law prescribes that you must put her in better position, right? You must pay alimony for the children you got. The same thing with the contract. If you want to leave CPP, you got your right to leave, but you will not fee Kennedy for 1 year period. That's what the law says. So that law is not violative of any rights.
So the legal consequences for disassociating, or the responsibilities that come with disassociating, even though that is your right. But in the case of the CPP, the consequence that come with it is that in 6 months period, you will not fee Kennedy until after 2023.
That's what they agreed to.
Fine. That is the agreement. So Article 25 is coming in to say, hey, it guarantees this particular agreement that you sign onto. But but on the other side, you are violating that right. That's why other people are saying because that clause is constitutional. What do you say?
So Article 25 comes to reinforce Article 17, right? And say, look, we got to respect the sanctity of contracts. Contracts are enforceable agreement. These people in the CPP knowingly entered the agreement, and they can't be arguing all the other things they've been arguing. They were all celebrating, that Cummings inserted A and the way they proceeded. Everything they did there is what backfired spectacularly, right? Because they were trying to see whether they could entrap a guy, and now You see where the case have ended, right? So the case had gone to a place where.
Why do you mean that they're trying to entrap a guy? Mr. Cummings was in the room. They all crafted this thing. This all sounded. So I don't see how they were trying to entrap.
No, but here is the thing that here is the entertaining thing, right? That was happening in the court that many people gloss over, right? When Mr. Ure went to the court and alleged the frivolous allegation against Mr. Cummings, the game plan of the government and Ure and those who started with him was to keep Mr. Cummings distracted, stay in the lower court, and maybe be dealing with this legal issue forever or for eternity, right? Maybe until election. But then they made a mistaken move to prematurely announce their withdrawal. And by the time they announced their withdrawal, Mr. Cummings played a judicial, right? He seized onto that withdrawal, made very solid constitutional argument to the next, went to the next, but we got a pre-wed document. A pre-wed document says you cannot prematurely leave. If you leave, this is what will happen. And when the party people carry non-lawyers to argue against that thing, they could not prevail. Then they start getting jittery, right? Then they start marching in the street, right? Going to embassies and passing petition around, and they had to go to Supreme Court. And people who follow, the legal thing and the political thing will tell you that Mr. Bwaka, they're not willingly just go over there to the place to testify on behalf of the government. He was doing that as a way to basically send signal to people at the Supreme Court that indeed, if they hold me here, I myself will do something to hold them down. But Cummings is the ultimate winner in this thing. Because if you thought you were going to hold Cummings, you're trapped now, skin around your own neck. Waka could not feel candidate now in Lofa. So he draped up. If he did not feel candidate in Lofa, you know what was going to happen? He himself would not have participated in 2023. So he saw the threat. And he knows the argument that Cummings put on is a solid legal argument grounded in law everywhere around the world. So the government, based on the pressure that was coming from ECOWAS, I understand President Weah has to counter enormous pressure from a colleague in the sub-region when he went to Malabu in recent time, that look, what he was doing with the Cummings case was bad. You saw the internationally respected institution like the Sherry Blair were getting involved with the thing and doing a forensic audit of the people. All those pressures started piling on the government, and the government said, oh, but if we allow judgment to hold the principle of law that we cannot screw on our private legal agreement, if we hold that principle, we'll be strengthening Cummings. So the government had a difficult dilemma. So what do? Let's look for all kind of things to explain and confuse people and say, okay, the case here is beyond, it's a violation of the Constitution. And by the time I say it's a violation of the Constitution, even though there are two separate issues, what is Solicitor General did? Solicitor General said, but then the case moved. But you, Solicitor General, you got your witness on trial. How can you, Solicitor General, your witness is on the witness stand? The Solicitor General, even though the witness is on the witness stand, he decided to run away from his own case. He said, even though I got witness on the witness stand, but their case here are leaving it now because the Supreme Court don't do it. All of these are face-saving measures that have been taken. And every time the Supreme Court had to bend over backward to serve the executive, to in a way appease the executive, they have undermined democracy around the world. I will get to another.
Anthony Jackson, you are a lawyer. I know the Supreme Court is not exempt from criticisms that human beings that are making those decisions. But the Supreme Court decision or opinion is clear that the whole thing is unconstitutional. And now the SG is saying it's mean. I will come back to you for us to talk about what the ALP is saying and the whole dropping of charges, given that this is actually or there has actually been a different case from what the Supreme Court ruled on. Let me come to Mr. Jackson here. You've been following Julius, and I'm going to bring you more on the political side here. Now that this is more like over as we know it to be, was the other party to the conflict, the JMB side of the conflict, you think they were doing all this to get Mr. Cummings? Because that is why we are hearing from Mr. Cummings' side that, oh, they are trying to wish on me. This is a criminal. I mean, this is a conspiracy. I mean, that they were working with the government of Liberia to get him. What evidence do they actually have when this is the very government now that dropped the case against Mr. Cummings? You are muted, Julius. You are muted, Julius. You are muted.
Okay, unmuted myself. Okay, exactly, Ansony Sieh, and that is exactly the case. From the very outset of the formation of the CPP, the Unity Party and the ALP had never been truthful to the Liberian people in terms of keeping the word to the Liberian people. They have always seen this CPP formation as a coronation that was built for Ambassador Bwaka, that they all are forcing on the Liberian people to be president. And anybody who dare threatens that coronation, like Mr. Alexander Cummings, who was growing momentum across the belly wave of our country so astronomically, I think at a certain point, the Unity Party and the ALP saw that with the wave of support base that Cummings and momentum he was growing across the length and breadth of our country by explaining his manifesto, his agenda for a better Liberia to our people and reaching out to our people and engaging them, knowing the problems of the people and offering alternative solution to how we correct the crying shame of our country. I think the Unity Party people, along with being supported either better by the ALP, so that the whole thing now is not a coronation that has been built for them because they feel so entitled to the flag bearership of the CPP, and all other people must be screening is surrender. And because Cummings threatened the coronation, in any Democratic primary, the Unity Party will be defeated face down. That's why I think the Unity Party, along with ALP, went to the WIA Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to aid them in breaking the CPP so that separately they can go. And I think the recent opinion of the Supreme Court, what that says is that the Supreme Court has formally done for the WIA administration what the WIA administration wanted to do for itself and has always been trying to do to ensure that the CPP breaks up, right? Because it is also important to note that it was not the Supreme Court that was going all on to look for a case and bring before itself to ensure the breaking up of the CPP. It was a few members of the weaklings in the opposition community who feel, like I said, so entitled to the flag bearership of the CPP and the presidency, and all other people must bow to them, felt threatened, right? And they proceeded to the WIA Court to ask the WIA Court to help them to break up the CPP. And I think by and large, to some extent, we are succeeded, because when we are administration,
are you disagreeing? Are you disagreeing with Anthony Jaesen here that Cummings succeeded and he is the victor here out of this whole quote? I will call it fiasco, because you are saying we are succeeded here, or we are won here, but he is saying no, Cummings is the winner. Are you disagreeing with him?
I'm saying to some extent, I do not disagree with Anthony Jaesen that Cummings has not succeeded. Cummings has succeeded because from the very outset, the Liberian people know that there was a grants and designed by.
So what is the success that you see here? What is the victory that you see for Cummings in this whole thing? I don't see any victory. Tell me what victory you see.
Yeah, the victory is that, I mean, this Cummings has always been accused of tampering and fingering the CPP document. And the motive and intent of the government, because it was a whole grand design that the Unity Party, along with the ALP, proceeded and connect with the government to drag Mr. Alexander Cummings to court, that Mr. Alexander Cummings will be pursuing the case and they will be dragging the case until 2023 elections, that they will entangle Mr. Cummings to deny him from contesting the presidency. But while they were doing
I don't see that. This is a CPP. There was opposition group, and they were together. And at some point, when the allegation first came out, some folks in the ANC said, "Well, if you think you have a case, go to court." And you went to court. So how can you say there was a working with the government? I don't see that.
Yes, before Mr. Julius proceeded to court along with the Unity Party, Mr. Julius have issued a statement in the public announcing his withdrawal from the CPP. You said you were withdrawing from the CPP. You are not a member of that institution anymore. You believe by your withdrawal, your pronouncement of withdrawing from the CPP. That says to end without pure law, conventional wisdom, that you no longer cover.
But he felt injured. He felt legally injured according to him. So he took the matter to court. Wasn't that the right thing to do?
If you are a member of the institution and you believe that something fraudulently was inserted into that framework document, you should have remained in the institution to claim your legitimacy and go to court.
He has a right to leave. He has a right to leave because here's the thing. I can get injured in their house, or I can get injured in this state, move to another state, and still pursue my case that I was injured in medicine.
Technically, let's agree. You have resigned from the institution. You are no longer a member. You are no longer covered by the law. They agree. You are no longer. What moral authority do you have, conventional wisdom, to drag the CPP to which you are already asserted that you are not a member? But it was a whole, let me give you the whole grand design. It was a whole grand design by the Unity Party, the ALP, abetted by the government to keep Mr. Alexander Cummings in court while he pursued the allegation against him up to the 2023 election, while the election is ongoing and Mr. Cummings is in court. But while
before I get to Anthony Jackson here,
let me let my thought. Yeah, let me let my thought. Why Ambassador Bwaka was also pursuing that unknowingly? He didn't know. He didn't know inadvertently. He didn't know that he was digging a hole for himself. Because all along, they all thought that they would keep Cummings in court up to 2023 election, since the government was fearing Cummings. Cummings was threatening the government, and as well, Cummings was threatening Ambassador Bwaka, and all those who believe in Ambassador Bwaka presidency were threatening the correlation that was built for them according to them. So let us keep them in court, but they exited from the CPP. They announced their withdrawal, but as soon as they went to the election commission to feed candidate in their individual need, the election commission stopped them. And the election commission had not stopped the Unity Party from feeding candidate up to now. Cummings would not have been exonerated. They would have been in cahoots with the government pursuing the case. But by the time the election commission denied, do
you think Mr. Cummings is exonerated? These charges were dropped. Julius, hold on. I don't see how Mr. Cummings is or was exonerated here, because that's why he wanted an acquittal from the court of law, that which he did not get. The case was thrown out, the charges were dropped, to put it right. So that is not an exoneration. Don't you see it that way?
It's an exoneration. You are keeping man of favor in the Supreme Court. Even in the Supreme Court ruling, the Supreme Court had never argued that there was an alteration of the CPP document. What the Supreme Court said, the clause on a question section 8.5.2 is unconstitutional, even though unprecedented. The Supreme Court opinion was, but the Supreme Court said this clause is unconstitutional. So that means that clause does not exist. Since it does not exist, what moral authority now would the magisterial court have to also be aggressively pursuing the case? So technically, the Supreme Court ruling has provided an opportunity for the magisterial court to know that this clause does not exist anymore again. So we can have this clause because the Supreme Court says unconstitutional, and what that is unconstitutional does not exist anymore. So inadvertently, you have no case against Cummings.
Thank you, Anthony Jackson. I know there are some thoughts going through your mind you want to put out, but I want to ask this question quickly. Was Mr. Cummings, legally speaking, exonerated?
Oh, obviously. In fact, I think Cummings is the victor in the instant case. Anybody who has their hair screwed properly on the shoulder will not still continue with the allegation that Cummings fingered the argument based on the facts, the circumstances before all of us that we witnessed. So, to continue to say Cummings fingered the argument when the government is in a hurry, to dispose of the matter, knowing fully well that this case has come as an embarrassment and a tint to the reputation of the government already sour. You know what I mean? You read all the reports on our judiciary from the United States Department. They say that court has a problem. The judiciary has a problem. All right? So what they did was just a further confirmation that we have a problem. The magisterial court knows that a statutory limit to handling issue of misdemeanor is for 30 days. This magisterial court took over close to 6 months, 5 months plus, to deal with a misdemeanor case. As in the fact that the Solicitor General coming up with the empty bluster that he had preponderant of evidence. Why did they not show one stray of evidence to convict the man? Nothing, brother. So that man, for me, what he did, he has become victorious. What he needs to now do is to start working on his team. But I come back to the theme of this conversation that I want to keep with you. In fact, one of the biggest losers in the case is Mr. Bwaka, right? Mr. Bwaka shamelessly debased himself to associate with a regime that is already decadent by its attitude. The vast majority of our people today are living in the wilderness of pain, with the CDC distributing poverty across the country. You said a witness for them, Mr. Bwaka. So what does he get for it? So on the Wednesday, what did he prove? Zero. So Mr. Bwaka is a big-time loser. I tell anybody who wants a better Liberia, look at Bwaka. Does he look like a serious opposition guy? He's still on government payroll. Every time I make the argument that Bwaka is on government payroll, besides just being government witness, the United Party people will get hello and say, oh, that have benefit, that have benefit. But I can tell you,
constitutionally, that's a benefit.
But let me make the very sound political argument, if also a biblical argument. In the Bible, Paul letter to the Corinthians, you know what he said? He said, not everything that is lawful is expedient. Mr. Bwaka, look at the inelegance of Mr. Bwaka going to collect every money taking pay for CDC people. It's inelegant, it's classless. So the men on government payroll, all the children working in government, is he a serious opposition guy? Besides that, today he government witness. He go testify against a friend. The case are Fiambomo, Bugo, nothing can order. Hey, what is Bwaka now? You think the Liberian people will forgive him? So he's the biggest loser here. Anybody who's serious about changing Liberia will look at Bwaka as a joke. The other thing I want to go to the theme of this conversation, right? I don't want to be
Anthony Jackson, I know you're using some strong languages here. You're calling the former vice president a joke. I mean, I don't know how you came to that conclusion, but may I ask this question? Because the charges were dropped because of the Supreme Court ruling in a completely separate case, right? So I want to ask, is it legal to file a nolle prosequi? I hope I got the pronunciation right.
Yes, but what nolle prosequi
in a fraud and criminal case that's completely ongoing at the magisterial court just because there's a Supreme Court ruling that is completely unrelated? Is it legal to do so?
The Minister of Justice can do that. Minister of Justice is the one pursuing the case. Minister of Justice said, look, we don't have the case. We ain't got substantial evidence to convince, so we don't want to waste our time again. We're going. Correct? So they don't have evidence. They want to say, they admitted, they conceded that they don't have evidence to convince, so they don't waste everybody's time. They don't want to waste their resources again. But I am just saying to you that from day one, anybody who was
and before you go to that point, since they dropped the case, you said it right. I want to think that they were the one prosecuting the case.
They prosecuted.
If they find it necessary to continue the case, it is their right to do so. But Mr. Ure is saying, hey, I brought my case to you, and because it's a criminal case by law, you as a government needed to take charge. So when you decide to drop the case, you needed to inform me because I was more like your client. And he's saying he was never informed. Does he have a point?
You see, what USA is doing is just putting on an empty bluff because he knows what went into the case before even the government picked the case. And there was a point that Judge Jaesen was even making with the case going even to court. And this is where the shame comes in, right? I see people today celebrating the opinion of the court that basically gave currency to the dissolution of the CPP, once cherished by all Liberians, as the only tool that will be able to uproot the CDC. Brother, what is in this to celebrate? We have all agreed Liberian people put their faith in the CPP. They were betting on the CPP to be the vehicle that will take away this sour image of our country that we are everyday tarnishing. Today, airplane can go to Liberia properly, the Hoover, they go to Freetown, to park there, the place is dark. That's not an image that we wanted for Liberia. So the CPP was how people were betting on. Today, the Supreme Court gave currency to the dissolution of that CPP. And you celebrate it, and you say your Unity Party, man, you mean to better Liberia?
Anthony Jackson, by this opinion by the Supreme Court, does it automatically and legally render the CPP dissolved?
But brother, the CPP is not a CPP. I mean, in a real sense of the word, we try to be hands-on and practical.
With a clause.
But yeah, is what happened, right? Two of the constituent member, if they are leaving, with even my own party already. Good portion, maybe a negligible portion. Let me make it negligible. A negligible portion of my party already, oozing towards. So you can see that the CPP, in a way, technically speaking, is non-existent by the action of the Supreme Court. We should be decrying the action of the Supreme Court, because I have said, and this is what I will say to the Liberians who are following this show, that private acts and private rights are not subject to constitutional challenges. For me, that's my argument number one. That argument is supported by laws in the United States, by precedent in Great Britain, that this is not the preference of the Supreme Court to start getting into private contract rights. The Supreme Court did that. It was a violation of its own principle. And let me read it, because I want to read it, and then the conversation went over and I forgot it. This is Justice Yo speaking for the court and criticizing Judge Peter Gwene, a circuit judge, for breaking a private contract right to the Supreme Court. The same private contract right that they passed on today, when it was brought to their attention, this is what Justice Yo said. And Justice Yo even asked questions during the proceeding. She asked the right question, but again, she signed on the judgment. So I don't know what's going on. But this is what she wrote in 2020 March. And if the Supreme Court refuses to be consistent in its ruling, it will not garner public confidence to support our democracy. This is my concern at this stage. But yeah, what she wrote. Now, before concluding this opinion, we deem it very important to pass on the scholarship of Judge Peter W. Gwene ruling, referring this case to the full bench of the Supreme Court. We observe that Judge Peter Gwene's ruling rendered on February 18, 2020 is legally blind in that it lacks recitation of the facts or the evidence. There are no legal citations supporting the judge's conclusion, and there are no analyses showing the sentences of law to the facts. To say the least, this is unscholarly. This is the justice dealing with a judge for bringing something before. He said, well, to say the least, this is unscholarly and unacceptable for a circuit judge. The Supreme Court, in cautioning judges to desist from such poor performances and exert their very best, has held this. And she went on to some other previous opinion that the court has held for judges who engage in such conduct. But here is where we are. Peter Gwene carry private contract rights to the court, and the court got angry. Why did you bring this? You should not have brought one payer in the first place. You should have dealt with the thing before you. Why did you bring this? Then old man Joe Boaka and his non-lawyers left from neck. They did not part through the procedure. They did not go to no circuit court. They ran to the Supreme Court. And you get
in essence, Anthony Jackson, political parties issues that border on their individual members' rights.
Private rights. These are private rights.
Should not go before the Supreme Court.
You can't. That's what the court say in Webo Pay case. Webo Pay say the people violated my Article 20 right. They didn't give me due process. The court say, but brother, this is not in our purview. They're not in our purview. You can't exert your private right. The constitutional court deals with what? Statute law. It says if this action is born out of legislative action, then the Supreme Court can move. That's the standing practice all around the world. Statute law or action by the government, because the government is bigger by all of us. If the government enforcing a right that's in contract with the Constitution, it's where the Supreme Court get involved. So if this was born out of a legislative action, if the CPP document was crafted by the national legislature, then the Supreme Court has the authority, the jurisdiction, as keeping with Article 2 of the Constitution, where they draw the strength from to pass on this. But it's not a legislative action.
Anthony Jackson,
if it is not a legislative action, why is the Supreme Court dealing with it? Why is the Supreme Court dealing with private contract rights when it's not born out of legislative action? That's the question that the court have to ask. And I'm saying this because, you see, Liberia is in a big transition. If the court refuses to serve as a bulwark for our democracy, we'll have problems. Go to Kenya. You know what the Kenyan Supreme Court did? In fact, the regime we have today, Mr. Weah came to power on the back of a Supreme Court ruling that was even disturbing. The Supreme Court, in acknowledging the result that brought Mr. Weah to power, know what it said? It said even though the result is fraudulent, but the fraud is not enough to vitiate the outcome. Proskin left that court scratching your head. He said, what kind of ruling is so? The Kenyan Supreme Court did the reverse of what Liberia did, because everywhere around the world, an element of fraud should vitiate everything you do. But our Supreme Court said the fraud was not too much, so you let that go on. In Kenya, the Supreme Court said the fraud here, I think, is a problem. We're going to rerun the election. And you know what? Know what that ruling did for the Kenyan country as a country? That ruling strengthened its not just the judiciary, a business climate. Because for people to invest in the country, they must be able to have confidence in the judiciary, the rule of law. If the rule of law is supreme, you will be able to invest. But today, a reverse is occurring in Liberia. Every time the Supreme Court cannot be overturning their own decision. So what has changed? Since 2020.
Jackson, thank you. Thank you. Let us leave it there. I don't want to get into too much legality. And
okay, then let's go to politics. Let's talk the politics now. Let's talk the politics.
I will leave it there, but to say I think the Supreme Court might have entertained this because there were some clauses or articles, I should put it right, in the Constitution that were somehow connected. Article 17, Article 25. And I mean, how it even got to the Supreme Court, I think you spoke to that earlier, but I think we have to leave it there. Folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. My name is Ansony Sieh hosting. This is the Hour of Politics. Anthony Jackson, the most eloquent intellectual, is here, and he's propounding intellectually. I also have here, comfortably seated, Julius T. Jaesen, who is studying somewhere. He's a young scholar, and we are discussing the issues that matter. If you are just joining us, just hit that share button. Anthony Jackson and Julius is going to start with you on this. Now that the whole thing is moot, and Cummings is a free man, and now he's clear to go into the election without any legal hurdles. Let's look at Mr. Cummings' path to victory with this embattled dead CPP, or just going as a ANC candidate, or maybe like Mr. Bwaka is trying to form another coalition. I don't know what he's going to do, but let's look at his chances for political victory now that this legal hurdle is out of the way. But first thing, I want to start with this. Do you think Mr. Cummings is in a much better position now to contest and make it to the executive mansion? Julius, unmute yourself, please. Julius, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Before I go along that line, let me clarify something on what Atty Jackson was saying and expand a little more on it.
Do that.
The Supreme Court all around the world have always been the bedrock of our democracy. when the Supreme Court falters on a constitutional obligation and responsibility, our democracy is doomed for failure. And it's sad in this particular matter with the death of the CPP that was currently ruled by the Supreme Court. There's a very same Supreme Court that we sat in this country and saw we are only because Justice Jaesen dissented with the majority opinion of the 2017 elections and supported a rerun of the fraudulent election that brought Weah to the presidency. Weah used the Supreme Court to unlawfully remove Justice Jaesen from on the Supreme Court bench, to the extent that that was embarrassing for our country, that Justice Jaesen had to take flight to the ECOWAS Court until around 2020, the latter part of 2020, somewhere around October to November. The ECOWAS Court got to rule that the decision of the government was unconstitutional and unlawful, that all the rights and privileges of Justice Jaesen should be restored. Is there the Supreme Court today that we're celebrating? The very same Supreme Court is being used by the government to stifle free press. We saw the situation with Patrick Onum, who is also a member of the Unity Party and a supporter of Joseph Boakai, and how he was treated with a punch effort. He went to the court today. That matter is still dragging before the court, almost 5 years into the CDC government. He has been denied the opportunity of opening his radio station in the country. Today, the very same government is even trying to muscle Parrot newspaper. Today, Parrot newspaper went to the Ministry of Information to renew her lesson and her document to start publication. They stop it. So is that the Supreme Court today that we believe? I think the Weah government has just succeeded in using the Supreme Court to break the CPP. Because I believe, and yes, how Pilot Ambassador Weah won and Cummings won. Because had the CPP collaborated and hold, the possibility of a one round of the election was likely. It was likely that Weah would have been defeated and beaten face down. We saw the massive victory of the CPP when they were collaborating and holding together in the 2020 senatorial special election across the length and breadth of the country. How the Weah and the CDC were massively defeated, right? So that threatened the power base, and they think that with the holding of the CPP, I mean, the possibility of Weah leaving the presidency was glaringly manifesting itself. So they got to, when the CDC government saw a loophole that Boakai and his people who thought that the CPP was a coronation bill for them and they were entitled to the flag bearership of the CPP, that Cummings was threatening them that they cannot survive anymore, so they should walk out of the CPP, not knowing that there's a clause in the CPP that obligated them that when they walk out, they cannot feed Canada. They collaborated with the CDC government to witness the demise, the death of the CPP.
And that was a smart move. What you're saying is true by the CDC, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely, because the CDC 2023 could have been a one round, no run off.
So the CPP problem have never been the government anyway, because they collaborated with a member of the CPP. So you can't blame the government at all, even though that was a very good move on their part, isn't it?
Yeah, we blame few members of the opposition, right? But who collaborated with the government? They have always been regime collaborated with the government to ensure the breaking up of the CPP. But it just says to all that the ALP and the Unity Party from the very beginning were not truthful in terms of their promise to the Liberian people. They were only pursuing their own selfish aggrandizement and ambition, right? Because
and Julius, let me add this today. In the statement,
let me let my thought on the all along in the CPP, Mr. Alexander Cummings has always said that when they go to a democratic primary, whosoever wins or emerges victorious in the primary, he will support that candidate.
That is true. Cummings has been on record for that. That is true.
But Saleh, it has never been the case with Baka. Baka has never made any commitment that if he is defeated in the primary, he will support Alexander Cummings or whosoever that will challenge him and defeat him in the primary.
That is true. And he even went further by saying he's the only one that can take President Wiata.
But again, like you Anthony Jackson, the CPP, has not that automatically. The Supreme Court ruling in no way has said the CPP ceased to exist. There are two parties now that are in the CPP. They have the right to
not two. One and a half. No. Let's get the record straight. Now 1.5. Not two.
No, they have two. The Levante Party. They have two. The Levante Party and the ANC. So I believe, there is still a clear path to a Cummings victory because.
And before you come to the Cummings victory, I want to ask you, Benina Ure's party ALP, in their statement reacting to the Supreme Court ruling, is talking about the travesty of justice because they had a criminal case against Mr. Cummings. What have you to say about this position by a Ure and an LLP? I don't know whether it's a political party or it's a club, talking about the travesty of justice, looking at the character of this party and its leader. What have you to say?
It's sad for people like you, right, to be calling what has transpired or occurred recently a travesty of justice. I mean, if Liberia were any serious country the world over, people like Mr. Ure will have absolutely no space to sit down on any table, any conversation to discuss the future of our country. Because here is a man who presided over the plunder and loot of our country, the milking of maritime. Here is a man who was engaged into gun running and participated in the summary execution, right, of the Liberian people. There's a man who presided over almost all the ill-gotten wealth of former President Taylor today. The man comes back to tell us that there is a travesty of justice. I think it's sad because this man has been placed on the UN asset-free listing, and Ure was one of those that were tagged as a marshal of death by the U.S. State Department and other international bodies, right? They presided over the total collapse, the destruction of our country. Ure was president de facto, right? During Charles Taylor Day in Banga.
Thank you,
Ure today will tell us that what is transpiring is a travesty of justice. It's just sad that our country is safe, because if our country were not safe, people like you will not sit down on any democratic table with people like Alexander Cummings to discuss the future of our country.
And may I say this, gentlemen, and Anthony Jackson, you can pick it up. Mr. Cummings, during the beginning of the show, I played a 2-minute video of him. One of the things that I pick up from that video, he said, I want to work with honest Liberians.
Yes.
We are talking about Ure. Remember, the first quote-unquote coalition against the Unity Party government, I saw Benina Ure, what's his name? Mr. Alexander Cummings and George Weah and Bronsky. These 4 guys laid their hands. So this is Cummings who is saying he wants to work with honest Liberians. Many years ago, he started working with Benina Ure. This is not now that he's working with the Benina Ure man. So that is why I have been taking a critical posture against Mr. Cummings, This man is not an honest man, the Ure man, and he has been working along with him for some time now. So is Ure in here or Cummings to blame more, knowing who Ure is, but he has been doing political business with him? How do you square that with his saying you can't be doing the same thing over and over and expect different result, and more so you want to work with honest Liberian?
You know, it's a difficult question, honestly. I remember one of our private conversations while I was in London. I remember asking question why my friend Alosho too was part of an arrangement with Ure, because he had a strong advocacy credential all along.
Exactly.
So to start hanging around with Ure, I thought it was an error. And we had a conversation. So, you know, you can say from the get-go, Mr. Cummings will have known. But sometimes people can think that, you know, the leopard will change his spot. The leopard don't change spots, you know. That's why you see that this guy is living up to the true nature of who he is. You know, you have always been like this. So I think it is Cummings now who now will try to recalibrate. Because when you talk about the CPP, and you and Julius are going back and forth on the CPP, in every organization, there are always the Judases, right? They're there. They were backstab. The political Pharisees, like people that deal on the internet, they will go and talk with Protentier in the daily island. They and Protentier are each other through, and Protentier got to go to announce it in public. You always calling my kitchen and there. Why are you pretending like this? So there are always political Pharisees and political Judases are always in the corner of these arrangements. Now that we have found them out, and I'm sure Cummings can now pick up whatever wound he sustained by associating with these guys, because when you lie with dogs, you get clean. Yeah. So he will now need to now clean himself out, get the right team behind him, and get the message across. What worked for Mr. Cummings, and I think it worked for, in a way, Madam Sieh, is the respectability that he have got with the international community, the impeccability of his character, and something that he worked for over the years. This is a man who has spent his entire working life building his good name because he tried to help Liberian people or help our country. Few men, dishonest men, despicable men, that you really try to lie on him. But the lie backfires spectacularly in the public, so much so that the government itself got embarrassed. They got to drag the Supreme Court there again to do dirty work for them. It's a shame. So
and you think that impeccability, impeccability of his character is stay intact, given that according to him that his character was being smeared?
They try to throw the mud, but the mud will not stick, because the old government I say, oh, we got evidence, man. We just go with no possibility, man. No such thing. Everyone waste our time again. They think everybody. But the real thing they're running away from is the subtle condemnation for the diplomatic community against the government. The government is aware. I told you about a conference in Malabu where President we are in among the Electoral were denouncing him for the action against Cummings. The Blair Foundation, Blair what? The panel of investigators who looked at the forensic scrutiny of the document.
You think that report is independent? You think that
international, brother, that institution comparing Sherry Blair credential to Serena Seaborn, you will know, brother. You will know the disparity. It's like a golf, right? They not can't hear each other. This woman is internationally respected, not just in England, but
and wrote a report with page numbers, with a political title to it, with languages that are highly political and not neutral. And you think that is independent, Mr. Jackson?
It's absolutely independent. You are dealing with political question. You can't be dealing with political question and use different language, brother. So she's dealing with political question. She dealt with the political question in substantive language that political people will understand. And that's why the pressure came from ECOWAS and even some members of the African Union critiquing or calling us that we have to attention that we're not coming back to Liberia. All that you're doing there, you're not helping democracy. You can't do this. And so they try to they got the criticism, and because they got the criticism, they have to act properly. But here is where we are now. I think a strong Cummings, and that's why the government got afraid, right? Because Cummings was now gaining support all across the country. People were hearing his need. First they said, "Oh, Cummings a little new, right?" Almost like what Mahatma Gandhi said: "When you start, what do they do? So now they laugh at you." or they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fire you, then in the end you win them. That Mahatma Gandhi, when Cummings started, they say, oh, he later knew he did that. Today, the little new man has gained support all across the country. They see the team, the cool team is putting together. The government intimidated. The government wants to run against Bouaka. It's clear. Because they know that Mr. Bouaka have been part of the excesses of past regime for over 40 years. Oh, limping, decrepit, 18-year-old.
Anthony Jackson, you described our former vice president as a joke or a joker. I take zero exception to that.
Yeah, actually,
I will have to give you the opportunity. How did you arrive at this conclusion that our former vice president is a joker?
Let me say this. You know, the former British, the leader of the British Parliament, the former Speaker of the British Parliament, the guy go by the name John Bercow. He said, respect is an earned credit. It is not an automatic right. If you debase yourself like what Mr. Bouaka did, you want to be the face of the opposition, and you debase yourself in the manner in which Mr. Bouaka did, drag himself to that court to testify. Everything he testified to became nothing. Even in your own testimony,
what would he have done when the court subpoenaed him to go and testify?
I will speak to that. But okay, even in your own testimony, the honor man, he said, you know what he said? No. He said, he was I think they tried to coach him how to tell some lies, right? He said, I don't use a WhatsApp message to do business.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that? But anybody in their day and age who says that they can't use WhatsApp message to do serious business, why are they confirming? They are confirming that they belong to the relic of the age past. Because you're talking about the age of technology. We are talking about moving Liberia to the age of technology. That's what Cummings is going to do for Liberia. Our children are going to be having computers. Yeah. The man who want to be president
in the WhatsApp transcript, he acknowledged a lot of things.
Yeah,
but he just come on to say, I don't use WhatsApp.
No, he said he doesn't do business in WhatsApp, even though the Secretary General said they don't do business in WhatsApp. But I am saying to you, in the day and age when somebody say he doesn't do business in WhatsApp, it confirms something. What it confirms is that person is backbone.
Yeah, so Mr. Bouaka said he does not conduct serious political business in WhatsApp.
Yeah, right. So if you can conduct business in WhatsApp, in the age of technology, you still want manual terrator, then you belong to the Jurassic past. You belong to the relish of the age past. Then you are a backward person. Because
I think the vice president was talking about using email instead, not necessarily to go to typewriter.
But you say you want to use email, you will come back and say, oh, you can't do email. But the other thing that happened was, if all Secretary General contradicted him on one of the many shows and said, but that what we do official business. Even in recent times, our president put announcement in the WhatsApp group. So, you know, I'm just saying to you that when people conduct themselves in the way the vice president have been doing in recent times, it automatically is standing. Because as an opposition guy, to come to the question you asked, if you are being subpoenaed, you should first think good leadership would not have allowed this thing to drag to the state. All right? By the time you started talking, I think a good leader, because good leadership goes over sound judgment. You are averted this by telling you, stand down, don't drag us to this, we can't afford it. And even if Mr. Ure wanted to still go to that place, the freeware document provided forum for what? Redressing concern of the nature that they raised. Mm-hmm. Okay? So even if you say, okay, we don't want this, you could go to an arbitration body, organize an arbitration body. Don't go to the government that you're trying to replace and say, come here and prosecute one of us. What does it say about you? You are trying to replace CDC, right? And you let CDC Solicitor General to be persecuting one of your own. And then you say we should take you seriously? How can we take you seriously, brother? So it was a judgment not based in anything that I would consider, experience and rationality. Because every time we talk about Bouaka, they say, oh man, very experienced. But what experience is this? That you will go to a government you're trying to replace and ask a Solicitor General to prosecute you or to put your own witness stands.
Anthony Jackson, let's not talk about Cummings' path to victory. Let me bring some numbers in the picture. Let me bring some numbers in the picture. I know you said Cummings is galvanizing massive support across the length and breadth of the country that he is this threat. Last election, it was 112. That is about 300,000 votes short of what Mr. Bwaka got. So he has to double up to match Bwaka before even going beyond Bwaka, before talking about President Weah. The CPP, we agree, was that silver bullet to taking President Weah down, if possible, in the first round. Now, I collectively found these leaders guilty for the childish behavior they exhibited, and that is why I don't have respect for them. Right. Because they saw something they have believed in that have been tested and worked, and then out of it something, they got small-minded and walk away because of personal feelings. I don't respect people for that. But let's come to the numbers. So looking at Cummings' numbers, looking at Bwaka's number, I will believe Bwaka has a much better chance of making it the second round compared to Cummings.
No.
Now, for the sake of argument,
I disagree.
Legally, you people can say, assuming without admitting, right?
Yeah.
So let's take that for now. How can Cummings chart a path past Bwaka to second round and then victory? What is that path? Do you see it?
So, yes, I see it. So I disagree with your assertion that, the first thing is Mr. Bwaka, and you got to understand, Mr. Bwaka inherited a winning Unity Party. Because the Unity Party under President Sieh have won 2 successive elections. It has over 9 senators in the Senate, and I think over close to, a large number of representatives. Under Mr. Bwaka, that number has shrunk. That number has shrunk substantially. The Unity Party cannot boast of over 17 lawmakers in the lower house now. Even in the Senate, I'm not too sure they can boast of good 3. So that Unity Party that Mr. Bwaka inherited, he had done disservice to that Unity Party by promoting his ethnic agenda. So much so that too many people are leaving the Unity Party. The Unity Party is hemorrhaging partisan, a losing partisan. So it doesn't have that winning team together. The other thing you want to consider, those who are loyal to Madam Sieh, I want to believe, based on the way Bwaka conducted himself in the mode of the graveyard silence, and he saw people trying to expel Madam Sieh from Unity Party, and Madam Sieh has to fight on her own to remain in the Unity Party. Those people who believe in her may not support Bwaka. So there's another factor that you got to consider. So all that number you're talking about that Bwaka had before, those numbers have considerably declined. And so even with my own Liberty Party, a sizable number of people in Liberty Party that I speak with every now and then say they will endorse Cummings on the basis of the impeccability of his character, that he has not been associated with the excesses of the past. The old man Bwaka, 40 years he's been leeching on government. And he himself will tell you, 40 years. 40 years. That man has been associated with government for 40 years. What new idea is he going to bring? So I'm saying to you, Cummings, if you had a Cummings against CDC, it's a strong debate, because what would be the CDC argument against Cummings? Or you being associated with the past, the decades of the past? No. Or you did it? No. What would be the argument? Against Bwaka? CDC against Bwaka? CDC will say, but we are all the same. That power will take it on a black. Yeah, but the Bwaka, you were just in the power regime yesterday. You're working with Joe. You're working with another person. Oh, you're corrupt. You're all corrupt people. You're coming back. No. So Bwaka had too many challenges to deal with when you come to campaigning with the CDC. You need somebody with a quote-unquote relatively clean record like Mr. Cummings, who has the private sector experience to rebuild our economy, to give people back jobs. That's what Cummings saying. I want to make Nigerian people to work again. Is that the message from Bwaka? No.
Jackson,
Is that the message from Bwaka? No. Bwaka just talking, I will win Lofa. Every day Bwaka talk is ethnicized the politics. I will win in Lofa. And to show that the man is an ethnicist, to show that Bwaka is an ethnicist, what did he win? Only in Lofa. So if you to count the CDC victory against Bwaka, they were what? 14-1, right?
Is that your yardstick?
They beat him 14-1. The man
is that your yardstick? He won votes in other countries. So to think that just because
no, he never win any country other than Lofa. and let's be honest with our people. Mr. Bwaka did not win any other county besides local county, which is a shame.
But he won votes in nearly all the counties too.
But yeah, I'm telling you, I gave you an analysis that the arrangement have changed, right? So okay, United Party under Bwaka is shrinking. Look at who had the United Party now. It's a crying shame. Look at the other man, the Executive General. Go for it. He just had despicable hour with a young girl.
Let me get to Julius.
So the United Party that Mr. Bwaka inherited, he had basically made that party to shrink, and today the United Party is hemorrhaging partisan. And so I think Mr. Cummings, based on his character, his experience, he will be able to do better. And that's why a sizable number of Liberty partisans are associating with him. And also, if you follow, I will conclude on this point. If you didn't follow the development back on now, most of the embassies are using Mr. Cummings' talking points. Just to show to you where they are going, where they are headed. The signals are becoming clear and clearer. So
I don't think those are Mr. Cummings' talking points. Those are the reality on the ground. I don't think that Mr. Cummings.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying, so Cummings is making the right noises. That's what I want to say. Cummings is making the right noises while Bwaka still talking about the ethnicities, the tribal thing. Oh, I will win Lofa. And then I got big country Lofa. No, we passed that stage already.
Let me get to Julius here quickly, but if you can take at least 30 seconds to respond to the. Do you see the rightful messengers on Mr. Cummings' side? Because what I see here is like he is a own messenger, and I'm not sure if he is resonating enough on the ground.
I think you're right. I think this is a place where Mr. Cummings has to do some good work. He needs some real serious firebrand guys on the ground to get the message to the nook and corner of Liberia. Our people, brother, there's no camp. What would be the CDC campaign message? That our people are not living in the wilderness of pain? Is that what CDC will tell them? Are you going into Electoral last on empty stomach? Do you know how many people go to bed hungry in Liberia while McGill is riding limousine, riding expensive cars and building museum? And he said he like a man. The other time I heard that he said, oh, McGill build a museum because he like a man. I said, but that's not true. If you take stolen money and build museum for your man, you desecrate her memory. Because every time we're having political discussion, we will go to her and resurrect her and say that stolen money that you laying down in here. So McGill doesn't like a man, but you will steal all that money and put it behind grave. Between the need of liking your man, don't use stolen money to build your man grave. Mr. McGill, you don't like your man. You dishonor her memory. This is the conversation we need to keep with our people when we go on the home front. That CDC people are building swimming pools while our people still taking back in Sony Wing. That Cummings is coming to build for our industry, to put Liberian people back to work. That is the message that will resonate with our people. And I think Cummings can get that message across to the people.
Thank you. The tough talking, Anthony Jackson, he's saying Cummings need the right messengers, the rightful soldiers that will go into the counties. He does not see that, and there where he and Mansai agree. I don't see one as yet on his side, and they are dancing kakaleka.
I think they are working very hard. There will be some endorsement coming very soon, and Cummings, you will see him riding popular charge. I can see him riding the popular charge already. The CDC sense that I want to try to put out 4 charges on him.
All right, let's come to you, Julius T. Jaesen, and I will repeat my same question. What is the path now that the CPP is no more for Mr. Cummings?
Well, first, I'd like to, before going along that line to answer you, I'd like to say that Mr. Cummings and his ANC have done a lot and still more needs to be done. I believe that his message is resonating with the Liberian people across the country gradually and over time, because I am not being so, I do not believe that Bwaka and his backers within the CPP will have threatened to leave the CPP, fearing a democratic primary that Cummings will have won right against Mr. Bwaka and his Unity Party along with his statistically insignificant ALP of Mr. Julius, right? I am not been so that his message, if his message were not resonating with the Liberian people, I mean the government, all of fear would not have collaborated with weaklings in the CPP, in the opposition, to drag Mr. Cummings to court on Booker, Trump, or charges, right? I think because Mr. Cummings is doing a lot and the Liberian people are buying into his message, that's why all those all allegations against Mr. Cummings, have come up, right? So you ask as to what is a clear path of Cummings to a 2023 victory. You try to premise your question on the 2017 numbers. But it is also important for us to know that we are Bwaka, Bronsky, and Senator Prince Johnson were considerably the most known political candidates in 2017. Each have participated in at least 2 elections prior to 2017 and boasted considerable new recognitions across our country, across the length and breadth of our country. Prior to the 2017 October elections, Liberia had all the time to assess Cummings, the WIA capacity, the Bwaka capacity, the late Bronsky capacity, and Senator Prince Johnson capacity, as well as the vision for a better Liberia, as compared to Mr. Alexander Cummings, who entered the election in less than 10 to 11 months to the process. So for Mr. Cummings to come there, I mean, even 120,000 plus vote, I mean, a stranger at the time in the politics of our country, it says a lot. But Mr. Cummings did not stop there, even beating UA. Mr. Cummings did not stop there. He has been able to use the last 5 years into the WIA regime to constructively engage our people across the bailiwick of our country, explaining his vision to the Liberian people and reaching out to Liberia across our country and even in the diaspora. So I think the Liberian people, to some extent, believe that Cummings is the only person that promising something authentic as compared to Ambassador Bwaka. Ambassador Bwaka is only believing that he's entitled to the Liberian presidency. I mean, he's somebody who's been leashing on government over the last 50 years. And I think that's why the CDC government will prefer to run against Bwaka than running against the change candidate, Alexander Cummings. Mr. Cummings is the change candidate. Bwaka is not. Bwaka is
I don't think Mr. Bwaka has been leashing on government for the past 50 years. According to one of his top surrogates, he has been in government for 25 years. I hope that helps.
But the man using hyperbole, my man. 25 years after hyperbole, the year after 25 years, we can carry 50. It doesn't matter for the hyperbole.
Go ahead,
the man was in the Doe government, and from the Doe government all the way back up to present, plus the 12 years of the Unity Party government, that huge number that Bwaka has been leashing on government. What has been Bwaka level of impact on the Liberian government for the last?
I really want you to give me more on Cummings' path. How is Mr. Cummings going to pull this thing up? I really want to see that.
I'm saying that Cummings has been able to. First thing you should know, that for the CPP to have offices across almost, I think, about 12 of the 15 counties in our country, it was under the leadership of Mr. Alexander Cummings. And those networks that have been built in those various counties, Cummings is the only candidate that have been able to reach out across, traversing the 15 counties, reaching up.
If I may add this, to Cummings' credit, right? Since the election, he is the only former presidential candidate who went around the counties, almost all.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
to his credit. But sadly, though, when you conduct a poll on the radio, either we leads the poll or Mr. Bwaka leads the poll.
Let me come in there. Let me come in there.
Mr. Cummings has poured in. I'm yet to see how it is
But
translated.
let me come in there. Let me come in there. Let me come in there. You know, quickly. And Julius made a very good point. I like to also say to you, brother, that the Cummings team, they're trying their best. You know, they get Mariah, she's doing her best. Comito is there, he got his credibility intact, the serious guy. You know, a few of the other guys are doing well. I think what he needs to do, as in Yoba, Boba, you know, they all coming, everybody coming on board. What he needs to do is to put some more energy in that team. Many people have been helping the campaign, even though a Liberty Party guy, but he's very passionate about Cummings. So you just need to basically, you know, reinforce the team a little bit. Now, with what you were just saying, look, Cummings coming at this stage, there will not be, for me, I don't see where the CDC guys will get their strength, where they take the mud from to tarnish this guy. What we need to do, what the Cummings people need to do, because I mean, you know, for me, at this stage, I'm still a guy who believes in a better Liberia. And because I believe in a better Liberia, that's what I'm talking Cummings talk. Because if you really want a genuine change, brother, a genuine change will not come from somebody who is an octogenarian, an 80-year-old man. When you're talking change, you talk about somebody who is relatively younger, somebody who has the energy, the stamina, and all that stuff, new ideas. Somebody who been associated with government for the measure you clarify, 25 years, we can expand 25 years to 40 years. Last time the black people were saying the same being government for 40 years. Even the legion that you're concerned about.
Multiply it by 2?
Everybody, you know, these things are not going to be exaggerated, but to make a point, to send a point home. The point that Jaesen sort of drive home is that this man have been working government all along. And the essence of those government, you can't divorce himself from them. No matter how you say that, right? No matter how you try to do
Jackson, you know, we all can put together and be on Bwaka all we want. At the end of the day, is the case that Mr. Cummings and his team will make to the Liberian people. I'm not sure their winning argument should be that Bwaka is bad.
No.
It has to be something other than that.
The Bwaka team, the Bwaka
more than we are is bad. So what would that be?
No, the Bwaka team is a statement in passing. The message I think would be CDC promised change, right? They were going to do better. Regrettably, nothing has changed in the country. Things are getting worse. CDC is leading the country toward an epic decline. Less security, the country is less safe. The country is less prosperous now, you know. And the last time on one of the talk shows, I told somebody, I said, look, even in the soccer arena, if you have a team and the team keeps losing game, what do? You change the senior coach, right? But Opo knows that, President. We knows that because he's a football man. So similarly, if you have a corporation and that corporation keep losing money, what do? You change the CEO. See what country. If you have a country and the country is catching hard time on a particular president, you come together and change the president or you change the administration. So the Liberian people themselves are feeling the pinch of the CDC leadership. Poverty across the country. Speak to people in Liberia, they will call in large number and say things are hard. The opinion pool you so talk about. Most of the opinion pools are conducted in Monrovia or cell phone who calling in here and there. Some of these people they are being financed, you know, so to speak. You know, the administrator gives some people money, they are regular caller. They just call every now and then. Even if they got nothing serious to say, so they just call and call in defense of the government. But when you get on the ground, which I show Mr. Cummings will put truth on the ground in the political sense, I don't want to get on a content because last time when they Duma relating, they say, oh, the Duma you want background. But Mr. Cummings, I show his strategy now would be to reinforce, to complement the effort of Mr. To, Mr. Dume, Mr. Yoba, Kekula, Weather Power, you know, few other people, Florence Chenoway, to complement their efforts.
Are these people making, Anthony Jackson, that you are
so the way I see it,
appearing on these platforms, which I'm not trying to dismiss because I'm in the business too, because these messages are getting to the people. Liberians are watching. I mean, I was surprised the other day. I mean, not to boast, one of our videos in 2 days hit 631,000 views.
No, but you're talking about that. You're talking about your view, right? But you know what? The last time I appeared on your show and we're having, you know, this conversation where I was trying to dissect my friend Ability, that video had been training. Every time I say something, they play it. So I mean, it's a shame that people follow your thing and they keep their recordings,
Okay.
and so you're doing very well. You see, but on the Cummings thing, like you say, we need the Cummings people who want better Liberia. We all need to come together. Even if Cummings doesn't reach out, you need to reach out now and say, look, Mr. Cummings, I'm here to serve. I'm here to compliment. I'm here to help your effort. We need to figure out how do we come in, what role we can play behind Mr. Cummings, because what we're dealing with, if you look behind Bwaka, what do you see? Ethnicist, tribalist, die-hard, tribal beggar. I can call some of their name. They are playing behind Bwaka because they come from Lofa. Do you think Liberia can afford another political tribalist to be president? We saw the disastrous consequences on a former president Doe. Is that what we want on a Doe Bwaka, where everything will be Lofa? Mr. Cummings is above that. Mr. Cummings, even though come from the southeast, the man lived in Monrovia, went to elementary demonstration school, came to the United States, working way up the corporate ladder. He has well-grounded experience. This is what he brings to the table: a better change, a change that will see industry across the country. People go back to work. When the CDC told, oh, has it given any job to any serious person? What the number of jobs they created? So that the message, they got no job. They said they were going to fight poverty. Have the CDC propose? Has the CDC waged any war against poverty? Zero. They have waged no war, no policy document on waging war against poverty. The CDC has done everything to not continue in power. And we tell our people, the first thing that we did was to gain what? Preference to himself. The first time he took power, what did he do? 14 condominium for himself. Where do you see in the world that when you take political power, the priority is going to be yourself? Every wise leader, when you take political power, the priority, the people. The first thing you deal with the people. Mr. Weah is coming last, and everything they're not doing is performative. We tell our people, this is performative. They're not concerned about the people. They're not performing, and they're dancing around as though they're concerned about the people. Other time I heard them say they gave a scholarship. You know what Jackson said? Jackson said about scholarship. No. You see, you can't get freedom education on Pharaoh scholarship. That scholarship, that Pharaoh scholarship. Our people will not get freedom education from Pharaoh scholarship. So you get great scholarship across the country, they will still vote against you. CDC is on a dying line, it's on a dying legs. It will not do nothing. Cummings will just need the team and the rest people to go over there and get the work done.
Thank you. I feel that if any of these candidates to be will beat President Weah, they should not just bet on the fact that there's so much terrible things and that we are on a nightmare in terms of governance. Don't just bank on that, because here's the thing that I've noticed. It's like the Liberian people, most especially those in Liberia, not all of them, but a good number of them have become desensitized to poverty. You know, it has become part of them. And let me tell you something. During the war, I fled to Ivory Coast. It was a slum. And there was a coke shop near there, and there was a place where people go to throw feces. And when I got there for the first time, I smelled it. I'm like, how can these people eat right here? But then, unfortunately for me, the coke shop there was the one I could afford. I was a refugee.
Yeah.
When every time I bought my little bowl, I would see all my friends there while they're spending the feces and they're eating. So this day I said, well, I can't be the one walking a mile just to eat. I will stay here. I ate for the first time. Then the second time. The next time I couldn't smell the poo-poo anymore. I'm saying this to say, these people might not be hearing these messages of change that these people are preaching. So they have to read to it in a way that it makes sense to the ordinary man. Because all they see now, they see markets breaking ground here and there. And for some of them, aside that, especially in the country, these what you call solar panel lights, President. These people, man, you know, I shouldn't say your man, Magil, who is the de facto president, is going around dishing scholarship all over the place, something he just talked to. Then the young people, they gather in numbers. How can the Cummings, pull hole in these strategies and read to a message that will get the people to see what the CDC actually is? And I'm not sure they are there yet, unless Julius come in on this, Julius.
Yeah, what I was saying, history has proven all around the world, change has always been the driver of electoral victories.
Okay. In
2023, like in 2017, Liberians will break up into two constituencies. Those who won real change, those who want authentic and genuine change, versus those who want things to remain the same. In 2017, when the Unity Party was going for a third term, the Liberian people across the length and breadth of our country believe that the 12 years that they gave the Unity Party-led government, to which Ambassador Baga was a part, did not deliver any better Liberia. After 12 years, our educational system is still massive. After 12 years, the government failed remarkably in terms of trying to reconcile our country. Evident by Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf's last State of the Union address, that she failed. Corruption was an issue, and Bouaka himself admitted that the government squandered opportunities. The Liberian people opted for change against things to remain the same. Regrettably, the change the Liberian people opted for, which Ambassador we have promised the Liberian people, sadly, he has not been able to deliver. All around the places, Ambassador we are owning extravagant condominiums, property mansions, and his ministers, junior minister following suit. Our people live on wrinkled belly. Corruption is endemic and pervasive in the CDC government. Unemployment is skyrocketing, evident by the even World Bank report. World Bank report 2 years ago. Even the Mo Abraham Governor India's report also pointed to the fact that the WIA government won't compare even considerably to Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf government, failed miserably to the extent that Liberians now, as west as the Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf government was, that they think that they did not deliver for which they entrusted WIA, Liberians now are seeing the future. They see the Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf era to be like a normal day to night, because everything has skyrocketed. Basic goods and commodity prices up. So what I'm saying to you, all around the world, change has always been the driver of electoral victory. The Liberian people will not go back to the Unity Party government for which they rejected in 2017 because they believe that the Unity Party government did not deliver more. They pulled the CDC government there 5 years into the CDC government. They have not done well for the Liberian people. The Liberian people will gravitate to a candidate that will promise change, and that candidate, they will see that change being reflected in that candidate. And I believe with Mr. Alexander Cummings, who has had no tinted record, had never worked in government and contributed to the excesses and maladies that we see in the government, will be thoroughly scrutinized by the Liberian people. All he and people need to do is to continually reach out to our Liberian people, what Mr. Cummings has been doing. And somebody under the lab will also say, but building offices in the 15th country, what does that mean? It means a lot. I mean, while the man was presiding over the CPP, he been able to use the CPP, traverse the country, and
look, Julius, that does not mean anything. I don't see how that, because basically what you are saying, WIA is building markets all around, so to speak. They say they're building hospitals, they say they're building roads here and there. And you are saying, well, I don't think the people are going to vote him because he's building market, because the corruption is too much. If Cummings is just building, and this structure you're talking about, that just for his party, I don't see how he improved the people living condition. He's doing it for political purposes, right? So that cannot be a message. But gentlemen, this is my final question to you both. Hold on, Julius. This is my final question to you both. Gentlemen, we are all aware. We are all political minds here. We follow these things. At the end of the day, one man can win this thing. You need collaboration. The only election of recent that was won by a single individual, I think that was the one with Charles Taylor. Our three most elections that we had, presidential elections, I mean, coalition or collaboration, won that, right? So what is Cummings' strategy? Does he have a plan, if you know, or do you agree that he will need a collaboration, one that must be better than the CPP that died a natural death? So if that is it, if you agree that is the way to go, Does he have it in his arsenal to pull one together, to finance it, and put all the strategy on the table to make this thing happen?
I think he does. I think he does. But you know, let me say this. Let me say this. You know, Julius was talking about Oman Bwaka in the former government, and he talking about expanded opportunity. You know, if you want to be earnest about
it seems to be the two of you just love this Bwaka name. This name is too.
No. I just coming to this. I coming to this place. I coming to this place because he was talking. I think the Sieh government did a lot more based on what they inherited. Sieh inherited a lot of, you know, we all know it completely broken down, decrepit system. She tried to reform that system in a way she did her best. The reverse is true for the CDC. The CDC met a solid foundation. At least they met an airport that were accessing planes regularly. There were no planes around the airport because of darkness. They've broken that down. They inherited a compact that basically was providing or helping to boost our energy sector. Today, accountability compact going to Freetown. The Liberia was claiming on Freedom House. Liberia was claiming on Freedom today. Liberia is dropping on Freedom House. The Mo Ibrahim Index on African governance was creating Liberia high under the President Sieh. Today, Mo Ibrahim not even picking it up because they're not even meeting the minimum benchmark. So they're doing very poorly. Now, with the Cummings strategy, I can say that this government has squandered a lot of opportunities, and even they have squandered their own chances for re-election. That's where Cummings can capitalize. And the way I see Cummings moving, I think he's reaching out now, building alliances. And one of the things I don't want us to do, even though it sounds to reason, right? But if we say like what you just said, that, oh, one man can win it, it will give President people a chance to steal the election. Because you know, President Sieh, she ran in 2005 as an individual. Subsequently, when she got in the runoff, it was before at that time she started to go all around to get people. If Cummings can do a brilliant job and get into a runoff, even best of Bwaka or whatever thing will convince him for a better Liberia to come and support us. So I think at this stage we should bet on the fact that one person could win. The strategy will be, let's reach out to every nook and corner of the country. I hope the CDC will provide us the enabling environment to campaign effectively, because the level of murder taking place in the country is more than scary. Every now and then, we see dead body in the streets. Our people, poor old man, stood in the line, voted for the boy from Gibraltar, gave in their vote, that at least they will have a better Liberia. Today, the children will die in the street, and upon President we will tell the poor people say they get died from tuberculosis. That young girl, princess, beautiful girl, even if that girl was to pass in from President we are 2 times, you will want to put top it. This guy, the old chairman of a party.
You are going to throw top to each again? You think President we are going to throw top to each again?
You will put top it. You will put top it like brain balance. Because the old chairman say he's a dangerous philosopher. That's what the old chairman say. But the point I'm trying to make, poor people stood in the line. They voted for you, they made you president with the hope that you will improve their welfare, their living standard will improve. Today, their living standard declining. Even on top of their living standard declining, their children are dying in the street. And you're telling this father story that the girl died from tuberculosis. Nobody who gets tuberculosis will be making food business. That's the first thing in Liberia. When you get tuberculosis, you don't make food business in Liberia. I was in public affairs. I work with the Ministry of Health. I know that to be true. So how can they be involved with making food business? And this government will claim that she died from tuberculosis. The government lying to our people. People are dying in the street. The poor people will take their vote from we are. That message will get to our people. So I think with that message, with the red messenger, our people will know that citizens what they saw to eat, and so they will move them. So Cummings is on the right path. Now that he has been able to distance himself from some of these people with notorious history, like Ure, you know, we know what he did with the gun trailer. You got to put him on sanction. Even in the old, I call it, where he live, what do you call the place? Carisbrand. He can't even win in Carisbrand. Every election that Ure participated in, he can't win in Carisbrand. Where he will win. So he's a zero addition to even Mr. Bwaka. Mr. Cummings is in the right position to win. He needs to reach out, and I'm calling on Liberians who want a better Liberia, who are genuinely concerned for changing Liberia, improving Liberia. They should come and hang around with Mr. Cummings. I show he has a better vision. And the key to reviving the future of our country, the respectability of our country, rests with Mr. Cummings. Now, Mr.
Jackson, you are sounding.
Mr. Jackson, we are doing live every day. When you go to extra meeting, you are sounding.
Mr. Jackson, you are sounding as though you are, an able messenger of Mr. Cummings. Have you been talked to? You sound more forceful than any of his surrogates that
I will not hesitate. I will not hesitate to ask me. I will not hesitate to ask me to serve as a surrogate. But at this stage, I'm not. I'm speaking passionately because I'm concerned about Liberia. We all want a better Liberia. We don't want a Liberia where my friend Costa will run away, they will put 4 charges against him. Costa is my friend, we have some political disagreement, but we need a Liberia that is selling Liberia, where Costa was criticized all kind of way, we will remove him, we went carrying to court. He himself will testify, right? I don't want a Liberia where somebody will try to get book or strap or charges because you want to scare people away from the country. That's not a Liberia that we will see on a Cummings. So Cummings will bring a Liberia that will be politically tolerant. Say anything you want to say about him, he will be there. It will not be a Liberia that will be craving for Cummings to be dictator like my friend was doing the other time. Oh, we have to be dictator, then you will be able to develop the country. No, you don't have to be dictator to develop Liberia. This is the new Liberia that we want. And that new Liberia will come on Cummings, give even the orientation.
You and Samuel 12 will talk that one. He's your very good friend.
He's my friend. That record, I told you the other time, I said that record went over here, it went over both. It was a dangerous record to come from a good man. But that's what I think.
Samuel 12, who I believe is one of Liberia's smartest young men, said that, President, we are going to be in power for life. I mean, when he said that, I'm like, 12. I mean, do you have to scoop this low because of political sycophancy? But then leave it there.
I think it was an off-the-cuff statement that was less than thoughtful. He tried to cry it back, but it's a dangerous rhetoric. It's a nation-damaging rhetoric. But what I'm trying to get across is that, all a Cummings, you will not hear that kind of rhetoric. Even if that rhetoric came up, Cummings will put a stop to it. Say, no, don't say that. Because that is rhetoric that the government does it.
No. There are a lot of things Cummings are not being able to put stop to. In fact, if you look at his surrogates and those who support Mr. Cummings, the way they have been vicious with their attacks. And for me, attacks don't do anything to me because I'm built for this. But we got to get to Julius here. Mr. Cummings has not been able to put stop to a lot of things. And you can't tell me he's not paying attention, because he should be paying attention if he's serious for this business. Julius, I asked the question earlier. Collaboration is key. I know Anthony Jackson did not dismiss that, but he said one man can win, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did it. I think Ellen Johnson Sirleaf have put together a collaboration by merging 3 parties, I think 3 or 4, all right? And so that was in itself a collaboration. Joshua did the same thing despite his iconic popularity status in Liberia. That had with Unity, what's it called? MPP and Joel Howard Taylor, that was a collaboration. So can Cummings put a collaboration together now that we don't necessarily have one? The CPP is diminished.
Ansony, nobody can disacknowledge and dismiss the fact that to win 2023, they do not need a collaboration. Even the CDC government needs a collaboration to not be dreadfully and disgracefully beaten, where they will need to harness their activities by reaching out to other smaller political parties in the ranks of the opposition to bring together an individual Liberia to pledge support to the re-election efforts, where likewise as Mr. Cummings himself within the CPP, 2 political parties with me, they will need to reach out to bring more other political parties within the opposition and individual Liberians residing in Liberia and in the diaspora to be able to support Cummings for a better Liberia. Likewise, the Unity Party and the ALP will need to recruit other political parties to strengthen their political base across the country to win. So I agree that collaboration is key. But I believe, irrespective of all the collaboration we'll be building with the division within the CPP, where 2 other political parties went this way and 2 remain, I believe that 2023, we will still have a binary choice, right, after the first round of the election. And in that round of election, that binary choice, which may most likely be between Mr. Alexander Cummings and Ambassador Weah, the Liberian people across the country will go the way of change. And I believe with the Liberian people desire for a genuine change to take our country from the crying wolves, to ensure the stability of our country and ensure the happiness, the safety, and security of our Liberian people, the Liberian people will offer a candidate who will promise the real change and should embody that change. And therefore, the Liberian people are now gravitating to Mr. Alexander Cummings, who they now see genuine change in, because they see all across our country people living in wanton fear, people living in insecurity, people dying mysteriously all across the country, right? Under the watchful eye of the CDC government. The last time we listened to Ambassador Weah telling the Liberian people as a result of some of the mysterious deaths that were taking place in the country, that Liberians should buy CCTV camera to put at their home, although even the LEC that they get is even stable in our country to support while the CCTV camera. Then another issue, as well, even the Liberian people have the economic map, to even purchase CCTV camera to place at their home. That was a mockery. Ambassador Weah was playing, of the Liberian people, right? The Liberian people entrusted you to the power to fulfill your constitutional obligation, which is also guaranteed the Liberian people in Article 1, that all the government was instituted to ensure the safety, the happiness, the security of the Liberian people. When you cannot ensure that mundane responsibility as a government, to ensure the protections of your citizens and your people dying all in the street with no account. Such a government is useless and does not work, and remaining in power beyond 2023. So I believe, to come back to your question, collaboration is key for everybody. Whether that we will need to collaborate to solidify his base, to not be disgracefully beaten. Likewise, the Unity Party and the ALP will need to collaborate to solidify the base, to pull out a significant strength in the 2023 election. And it seems with Alexander Cummings and the Liberty Party in the CPP, they will need to go beyond that two political parties to recruit other political parties and individual Liberians, who are citizens of eminence, like people, Anthony Jackson, right? People like myself, right? And people like you, Ansony, Sieh, and Liberia, across the level of our country to support Cummings' vision. But I believe that 2023, Liberia will face there will be a binary choice. After the
let me clarify the point question.
Between Cummings,
Julius, you are suggesting that the Cummings side should recruit me. No, I'm in the media. Let the politicians stay away. I am salt. You put me in your mouth, you're not gonna be happy.
Yeah, but in the media,
I can't do that. Somebody have to be in the media. Somebody have to be in the media.
Every day you sit on your platform and you advocate for a better Liberia. And then you see somebody who is a representative of a better Liberia, who authentic change is reflected in, you owe the Liberian people that responsibility. You owe it to your country to make your country a glorious land of liberty.
I agree. Until
you tell your people,
I have not seen that yet.
We wait to go. It will not be a loss of your integrity to see somebody who embodied a genuine change and telling the Liberian people that this guy resembles the better Liberia.
And you see Cummings to be that genuine change. And I have not seen that yet. I'm still looking for that opportunity to see it. Gentlemen.
And that's why we say Cummings has a lot to do to reach out to people. And
gentlemen, time is fast spent. We will be going to our closing. I'll be getting your closing very soon because of time. You know,
Yeah.
Anthony Jaesen, I know you told me you're going to be pushing your leg cartoon myself.
Absolutely.
I'm a family man. We got to take care of business. So we'll take a short break, gentlemen. We'll come back. We'll get your closing, and then we take it from there. Folks, don't go anywhere. You want to wait for Jackson's closing. You want to wait for Julius' closing. A short break, and folks, we will be right back with you for the closing. Don't go anywhere.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Dennis Jah, thank you. I'm Ansony, Sieh, the host of the Hour of Politics, and we have been discussing the topic, does the dropping of charges against Mr. Cummings pave a way to the Liberian presidency? I'm coming back to my guest. Before I can do that, let me advertise this to you. Tomorrow, Wednesday, on the Hour of Politics, I am going into the CDC closet. My topic, CDC smells with corruption. Fellow Liberians, you got to watch out for that. I have done my research, and what I saw in that closet, it's not pretty. It's bad, but I'll put it out there for the good of Liberia. Yes, my topic, the CDC smells with corruption. Gentlemen, let's get to it here for your closing. I couldn't appreciate your time, and how solid, what you submitted here, actually have been. Anthony Jaesen, do you want to go for? No, let me start with the young brother.
Okay.
Literally saying the young brother can close. So Julius, let's get your closing. You are still muted. Okay, good.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I can say, the Liberian people all along have realized and they know very well that the whole Chinini Kings, the whole grand design was something that was being masterminded by the government of Liberia with the support of a few members in the ranks and file of the opposition to lower the momentum of Alexander Cummings, who were going all across the country, and the Liberian people in the mass were gravitating to his vision. And the way to slow the change train was to be able to come up with all sort of cook or charges, trump or charges, book or charges, to be able to drag his character and his credibility that he so cherishes in the more, and while he's in election, the lowering his momentum. And the CDC can be leveraging on that to weaken the opposition base to ensure the re-election efforts is guaranteed. But I think with the exoneration of Alexander Cummings, the Liberian people, can now be convinced that a genuine change is on the way. They now know that all along, Bwaka and Ure were not truthful to their commitment, their promise, and their word to the Liberian people of keeping a genuine CPP, a genuine collaboration to defeat George Weah and take our people from in the crying shame, from in the crying woes. All the Ambassador Bwaka and Ure then sought to do was to be able to pursue their own selfish aggrandizement and ambition. Right? And because Mr. Alexander Cummings was threatening the coronation, they got to run to George Weah's Supreme Court to ask the court to help them to break the CPP, something that was to the pleasure of President George Weah. Right? But by and large, I think the committee's been doing a lot more work, and there's more work need to be done, and Cummings is reaching out. Some of us are even intending to go back to our country to remain actively engaged on the ground to ensure that a better Liberia is delivered. And to conclude, I will conclude on this. Like I said, all around the world, change has always been the driver of electoral victory. In 2023, like in 2017, Liberians will break up into two constituencies: those who want genuine, real, and authentic change versus those who want things to remain the same. And I believe that Cummings represents a genuine change, and the Liberian people will always up for a genuine change. Thank you for the opportunity for bringing us.
Julius.
Let me, before I conclude, let me issue this public apology to my wife.
Okay.
Both of us are using a single vehicle, and I'm supposed to pick her up at 2 o'clock. A long part 2, I haven't been able to contact her because it's the phone I'm using to keep the conversation. So I'd like to publicly apologize to her for the delay. Now, in closing this conversation, I'd like us to go back. I'd like to just go back to the topic that we came to discuss. The Supreme Court in 2023. How do we see it? Which way? For me, I think it is a strange practice for private contract rights to come under constitutional scrutiny. It is a strange practice. Never before have we seen this practice that the Supreme Court engaged in. It violates the standing principle that private contract rights are not for constitutional consideration or are not in the province of the constitutional court. And so, for Liberians to have confidence in the court continuously, it is imperative for the court to remain consistent in its interpretation of the law. In March of 2020, the same Supreme Court chastised one of its own, a judge in a circuit court for bringing private contract rights to its attention. For the court to depart from that in just 2 years when nothing substantial had changed, it's a concern for me. It says a lot about what we may see in 2023. If our people do not have confidence in the court's interpretation of rights or laws, our democracy will be on a threat. Because as it stands, the court is now interpreting private contract rights. Somebody in Susu Club will eat their own hand. When it's time for the friend to eat their own hand, they will refuse and say, oh, I get my right under Article 17, and I will walk away. And then the court will say it will have to look into that kind of right. Yes, it's a strange practice. It's painful that we have to come and remind the court of its March 2020 opinion and the opinion of the United States Supreme Court in Shirley versus Kramer and in Corrigan versus Beckley. All these cases were decided 1926. The order of Shirley versus Kramer, which you can Google, was decided in 1948. It doesn't say well about our court for 2023. On the issue, it also closing, I'd like to also say to those of us who want better Liberia, if you genuinely love Liberia and you want to see change, you cannot look to an octogenarian politician for genuine change. Matter of fact, people in their 80s are always associated with the status quo. If I talk to my grandpa or to an older man, you say, my man, you don't know, let the system be like this. They don't change things. They don't change things. So it's ironical that Liberia will want to change and go to somebody who has been associated or will attempt to go, because they're going to attempting to go. Somebody who has been associated with a terrible past, working with all the bad government, so to speak. Though government, you were there, they fire you, You say you get experience, you chairing the CPP. It is under the chairmanship of this man that the CPP has imploded. What leadership can he pose off? Liberia won't change. You don't look to an octogenarian. Bouaka will not deliver the change we want. He's currently on government payroll. No matter how much spin they put on it, he's on government payroll. Even if he argues say that he right. But the Bible, Paul was telling the Corinthians that look, all things that are lawful, not everything that lawful is expedient. Not everything that legal is expedient. It's a common balance. How can Mr. Bouaka and his United Party people don't see the inelegance of his conduct, the classlessness of going to get pension money from CDC people, the people who are inherently corrupt? For me, I think it's classless. I think it's inelegant. It goes to what the Bible says, that everything that is lawful is not expedient. This is not expedient for our vice president to be doing, to be collecting money from the Ibogo. He should not have been doing it. And so he cannot be the one we will go to at this stage. He has squandered his opportunity for respectability when he served as witness for the CDC government. The government has shown absolutely no decent respect for human life. We in Liberia, 1990 war, 200,000 people died in that country. Today, people are still dying. The government not showing concern. And you say you witness for them, oh man, Bouaka. I don't think he should be the one to deliver, or he can be the one to deliver a better Liberia. He has squandered that claim to respectability. When he stooped in that door, he said he was testifying for CDC government, and Sarah Serena Seaford was tracking him as a star witness. Sarah Serena Seaford, a man who is also ready with all kind of claim of scandal. You saw the later one where he and Ellen Coco. You know, this is not what the vice president who wants to stand up as a serious opposition guy. This is not a place you want to be government witness. So Omer Bouaka disappointed the opposition bloc. He's chairing the CPP. He didn't do anything to hold the CPP together. He broke the CPP apart. Our people should pay him for doing what he did. He tried to dash the hope of our people. God forbid, if we do not prevail against we are as a united front, we will blame it on Omer Joe Bouaka. What he did is unforgivable. Our people were betting on the CPP, for the CPP to deliver them one round victory. You are made victory difficult to come. But again, it is not the jaw of the noble heart that gave. It is not the victory. It is not just the. It is not the jaw of the noble heart. It's not the victory, but the combat. That's the quotation. The jaw of the noble heart is not in the victory. It is in the combat. Because when you win a strong combat, when you win a strong victory, that's what you celebrate. Cummings will win a strong victory if he gets the right team together. It's going to be a little difficult victory, but he will win that victory if he put the right people together. For a better Liberia, we need to come together and tell CDC, Mr. CDC, we stood in the line. My cousin in Sweden and myself used to debate every day because he used to be a footballer. He used to man for team in Liberia, right? Footballer. He's a man goalkeeper. We argue nice that upon President we have done better. But let's give a man a chance. He will do better. Today, when I called my cousin, he agreed with me. He said, I wish I knew. So, President, we are not angry with you. We are disappointed in you. Our people are disappointed that a boy from Gibraltar will not live them from poverty. That a boy from Gibraltar will invest in a private wealth, built for himself 17 or 14 homes. That's not the first place. That's not the first call to duty to build a home, Mr. Weir. You're disappointing our people. Our people stood in the land, voted for you. You have surrounded yourself with vampire men. And I'm still concluding. Vampire men, men who are leeching the government coffers and doing it with P&D. Look at McGill, a guy who could not afford to eat at 404 properly. Today, he got houses all over the place, building mausoleum. Where did he get all that money from? From the government coffers. The evidence is very clear. Today, the budget of the Minister of State is bigger than the budget for the judiciary. How do you support democracy when you pay the judiciary, I think, 18 million and you give them again 20 million? What are you doing? You honor money, the respect for the rule of law. Judges will now have to go bend over backward and take peanuts from people. That's not what our governance system should be, that the Minister of State will get bigger budget than a particular branch of the government. President, what are you doing? You're destroying our country. You give them again more money than the judiciary. And if the people are supposed to speak up for their right, the place they're supposed to have confidence, number one, that in the courts. But if the court get underpaid, you think they will serve proper to our democracy? Will they serve the poor people interest? Our poor people will go to the court and say, I will go to court. The way they may step on my toe, I will go to court. But if you pay the court less, like you don't, give more money than the court. It's a shame. So I am saying to Liberians, Cummings may not be a perfect human being, because nobody's perfect. But from the evidence before us, he has come with good intention, based on his proven track record. To work in America, you live 5 minutes for joy, they're giving you occurrence, they're giving you Electoral. Cummings work here as a Liberian boy from Negro Town. Work hard, work the back up, and climb the corporate ladder in America. It's not a small feat. And so, if it comes to serve us, but look away. It may be that we take another race, but it's a good race. Because his background says that he's a decent man. He's a decent man, that's why he's associated with all these international corporations. Nobody who has criminal record will associate with all the international institutions that Mr. Cummings is associated with, that he's a board member of. He's a man of good and standing repute. He's a man with impeccable character. Let us try him. Let us give him, let us work along with him to see whether we can get a better Liberia under his leadership. But what we has done, he has convinced us that he doesn't love Liberia. Because anybody who loves Liberia, you will not sit down for the Liberian embassy in Washington, D.C. to be covered in grass. For a private citizen to go and clear it. That's not love for Liberia. That's a disgrace you brought upon our country. Liberia is in Washington, D.C., where our embassy is located as Liberia. That is our sovereign right. That's why you damage. Grass cover the embassy. It has to be talked about by people who love Liberia before a private citizen wanted to clean it. Honor your regime, President Weah. That's not love for Liberia. You will not love Liberia and keep our airport in darkness. That's not love for Liberia. Let our people know that President Weah doesn't love Liberia as it's been falsely claimed. Because if you love Liberia, you will promote Liberia image. The first thing President Sieh did was to restore Liberia democratic, diplomatic image. The first thing, everywhere around the world, Liberia diplomatic image was restored under President Sieh because she loved Liberia genuinely. That's what she did. Foreign embassies everywhere. Foreign dignitaries were trooping to Liberia today. How many foreign dignitaries have been going to Liberia? Our passport in the hands of criminals today in America. Money launderers holding our passport, American government investigating. Former passport director running away because of the same passport scandal. It's a dangerous place for Liberia to be. We need another man. And that man will be Mr. Cummings, I believe, based on the evidence before us. He has the respect for himself. He has worked with the international community, and I'm sure he will deliver a better Liberia. Let us give him a trial. And I think, even if he doesn't reach out to us, like he has not reached out to me, but I believe that at least he got something to offer. Let us give him a trial. And that, for me, that's the way for Liberia to develop. And that's the way for Liberia to go. But everything we have heard is a charade. The evidence contradicts everything they told us. That he loves change. He wanted a better Liberia. You want better Liberia to keep our airport in darkness? The airport is the face of Liberia to foreign travelers who go to the country. That's never done. The foreign embassy, Washington, D.C., our foreign embassy, a critical embassy that will represent Liberia sovereignty in America. You keep it in grass. You keep it in grass. So I am saying, the evidence against Mr. Weah that he has squandered an opportunity for a second term, they are very clear, they are huge, and we need to work together under Mr. Cummings to see whether we can do something better. Mr. Bwaka has squandered his own opportunity by serving a witness to a vampiric government.
Thank you.
The CDT. Thank you very much.
Well, folks, on that note, this is how we will come to the end of this edition of Politics. As many of you know, usually I come with my closing. Mr. Jaesen has delivered a powerful closing, so I will leave it there. But to tell you, the song that says we are all Liberians is taking us home right now. Until we meet again, I'm Ansony Sieh, and I brought you yet another edition of the Hour of Politics. Anthony Jaesen, thank you so much. My good GM brother, Julius T. Jaesen, thank you. Anthony Jaesen, we can do this again. We have to fight for this country because we have life. We have to use it to our advantage for the benefit of our country. Thank you, folks, for watching. We appreciate you following today. Bye-bye. Enjoy the song. We are all Liberians.
We are Liberians.